Maria's hands trembled as she scrubbed the marble floor. The boss, Mr. Harrington, watched her with cold eyes. "Faster!" he snapped, his voice like cracking ice. "You're not being paid to daydream, Maria." She was invisible, and they both knew it. He walked past, not seeing the woman, just the uniform, a tool, a machine to keep his mansion perfect. Her back ached from 16 years of this silent war, 16 years of swallowed pride and silent tears. But today felt different in the air. The other staff whispered, avoiding her gaze. They knew the storm that was coming for her. Mr. Harrington had been in a fury all morning. His fortune was vast, but his heart was a small, cold stone, and Maria was about to be crushed under it. "Maria, my office, now!" The command was a death sentence. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a trapped bird. This was it. After all her loyalty, her quiet service, the final dismissal for a younger, cheaper model. The working-class dream, dying in a rich man's office. She walked the long hallway, her fate sealed. Each step echoed the end of a life she knew. What would she do? Where would she go? At 58, no one hires a cleaning lady. The fear was a physical weight, crushing her chest. The office was all dark wood and silent judgment. "Sit," he said, not looking up from his papers. Maria sat, her old bones protesting softly. She saw the envelope on the desk. Thin, final. This was how her story ended, with a pink slip. But his voice was strange, not angry, tired. "Everyone is gone, Maria. The vultures, my so-called family." He finally looked at her, and his eyes were old. "They only see the money, the empire I built. They never see the man who built it all." Maria stayed silent, her mind racing, confused. This wasn't the speech she had prepared for. Where was the anger? The list of her faults? This was a confession, a lonely man's last sigh. A human drama playing out in a golden cage. "I'm sick, Maria. The doctors don't say it, but I know." He coughed, a dry, hollow sound in the quiet room. "This house, this fortune, it means nothing now." He pushed the envelope towards her. "Not thin, thick. Open it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. Her worn fingers tore the paper, her breath caught. It wasn't a dismissal. It was a last will and testament, and her name was on it. Everywhere. The mansion, the stocks, the entire fortune. She was not being fired. She was being made the heir. You're giving it all." "To me?" she stammered. The world tilted. This had to be a cruel joke. A test of her honesty before he threw her out. "Why?" was the only word she could force out. "Why would you do this, Mr. Harrington?" "Because you were the only one who saw me," he whispered, his strength fading. "Not the billionaire. You asked about my cough last winter, Maria. You brought me soup when no one else called. You saw a man, not a bank account. A person." The family, he explained, was already circling. His nephews, his nieces, with their greedy, empty smiles. They would tear his life's work apart in a week, sell it off, spend it on their frivolous lives. He couldn't let that happen. He needed a guardian. Your integrity is the only thing of value here. This fortune needs a heart, not another shark. You have that heart, Maria. You always did. He was giving her the ultimate life lesson, that true wealth is character, not currency. The weight of his decision crushed the air from her lungs. She, an immigrant cleaner, heir to a fortune. This inspirational tale was her new, terrifying reality. The invisible hands were now holding the keys, and a storm of envy and greed was about to break. The reading of the will was pure, explosive chaos. The family laughed at first, thinking it a prank. Then, as the lawyer's calm voice continued, they froze. Disbelief turned to white-hot, furious rage. Their inheritance was gone, stolen by the maid. "You?" his nephew Robert spat, pointing a shaking finger. "You scheming, manipulative witch. What did you do? How did you trick him? Did you poison his mind?" The accusations flew like poisoned daggers. They couldn't see the truth, only their lost money. Maria stood silent, a rock in a stormy sea. She held the legal documents like a shield. Mr. Harrington's trust was her only armor. This emotional story was turning into a war, and she was the surprise general on the battlefield. They promised lawsuits. They promised to destroy her. You'll never see a cent, you understand? Never. We'll tie this up in courts until you're dead. They saw her as a thief who stole their birthright, not the chosen heir of a wise, lonely man. But deep down, a new fire ignited in Maria's soul. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was respect. It was about proving that Mr. Harrington was right, that a domestic worker with a good heart was worth more than 100 greedy heirs. The lawyer's letters started arriving the next day. Challenges to the will, claims of undue influence. They dug into her past, her simple immigrant stories, looking for any dirt, any secret to use against her. They found nothing but a life of hard work and dignity. The media caught the story. Maid inherits millions. The headlines were a mix of shock and sneering doubt. Everyone had an opinion on this real-life drama. Was she a saint or the greatest con artist alive? Her quiet life was now a public spectacle. Her own community looked at her with new eyes, some with pride, others with a bitter jealousy. "Who does she think she is?" they whispered. The working-class heroine was now alone, caught between two worlds, accepted by none. But she remembered Mr. Harrington's words. "Your resilience is your greatest strength, Maria." So she hired a lawyer, a fierce, no-nonsense woman. She would fight, not for the money, but for his wish. She would honor the trust he had placed in her soul. It was a terrifying, lonely battle to fight. But in her heart, she knew this was her destiny, to prove that inspirational change is possible, that sometimes the most powerful human drama begins with a simple act of seeing someone. Robert, the main nephew, played his dirtiest card. He found Maria's son, Marco, a troubled man. He filled Marco's head with lies and promises. "Help us, and we'll give you a big cut of the money. Your mother doesn't deserve it. She'll waste it." Marco, who had always been jealous of her time, who blamed her cleaning jobs for his own failures, showed up at her door with a lawyer of his own. "Mom, you're not in your right mind," he claimed. "Let me manage the money for you, for your own good." The betrayal cut deeper than any lawsuit, her own flesh and blood used as a weapon. This was the lowest point, the deepest human pain. The family smiled, thinking they had finally won. They had turned her greatest love into her enemy. Maria cried. That night, her heart shattered. She had lost her husband, given her life for her son, and now he stood with the wolves at her door. This was more than a legal fight. It was spiritual. It was a battle for her soul and her legacy. But in the darkness, she found a fierce resolve. She would not be broken. Not by them, not even by him. She would stand her ground for Mr. Harrington's dream. This true story would not end with a betrayal. It would end with the truth shining like the sun. The final court date arrived. The air was electric. This was it. The judge would decide everything. Robert's lawyers presented Marco as their proof that a woman of her background is easily confused, that she was manipulated in a moment of weakness. They painted her as a simple, uneducated cleaner, incapable of managing such a vast fortune. It was a brutal, classist attack on her very being. They didn't just want the money, they wanted to erase her, to prove she was, and always would be, nothing. Then, it was her lawyer's turn. She called one witness, the family doctor, an old, respected man in town. He testified about Mr. Harrington's sharp mind. Until the very end, the doctor stated firmly, his decision was his own, clear, calculated, and just. Then, her lawyer played a recording. Mr. Harrington's voice, weak but clear, filled the room. "Maria, if you're hearing this, they're challenging you. They will say you tricked me. They are wrong. I chose you because you are the best of us." The courtroom was utterly silent. The truth was heard. He spoke of her kindness, her unwavering honesty. He called her his only true friend at the end. This wasn't a story of manipulation, but of love, a final, powerful lesson in human worth. The gavel fell. The will was upheld in its entirety. The legal battle was over. Maria had won. But the war for her soul and her new life was just starting. She had the money, the house, the legal right. But now she had to face her son and herself. The reporters swarmed her outside the courthouse. "Ms. Maria, how do you feel? What will you do now?" She looked into the cameras, her face calm, strong. "I feel the weight of a great man's trust," she said, "and I will honor it, not by spending, but by building." Her first act wasn't to buy a car or a diamond. It was to set up a foundation in Harrington's name, a fund for the education of domestic workers' children, a shelter for single mothers struggling to survive. She turned his financial wealth into human hope. She went to her son, Marco, her heart still aching. She didn't offer him money. She offered him a choice. "Help me run the foundation. Learn to be a better man. Your inheritance isn't cash. It's a chance for redemption." He saw the truth in her eyes, and the shame broke him. The mansion was no longer a cold, silent museum. She turned it into a community center full of life. The halls that once echoed with loneliness and pride now rang with the laughter of children and hope. Mr. Harrington's legacy was finally a home. The family, defeated, faded away into bitterness. They never understood the inspirational power of a story not about getting rich, but about giving. A real life lesson that the greatest wealth we can own is the impact we have on the lives of others. People asked her, "Aren't you angry at them, Maria? At the family who tried to destroy you? At your son?" She would smile, a gentle, knowing look in her eyes. "Anger is a poison you drink, hoping others will die. Mr. Harrington freed me from that. I am free." She learned that money doesn't change who you are. It amplifies who you've always been. Deep inside, if you are kind, it gives you a bigger stage for kindness. If you are greedy, it becomes your golden cage. This was the ultimate life lesson of her journey. Her story became a beacon, an inspirational tale, not of a maid who became rich, but of a woman who used a fortune to prove that dignity has no price, that the working class heart, when given a chance, can heal the world that once tried to ignore it. She still cleaned sometimes, in her own mansion, not because she had to, but because it grounded her. It reminded her of where she came from, her truth, that every life, no matter how seemingly small, has a story worth telling, a destiny waiting to unfold. And in the quiet moments, she felt Mr. Harrington there, not as a ghost, but as a quiet, approving presence. He had not given her a fortune. He had given her a voice, a platform to prove that the most powerful storytelling is the one that whispers, "You are seen, you matter." Years later, the Harrington Maria Foundation thrived, changing thousands of lives with its quiet, powerful work. Marco, transformed, was its most passionate director. He had found his purpose not in taking, but in giving. The true inheritance was a healed, loving relationship. Maria never moved into the master bedroom. She kept her small room with its view of the garden, a reminder that your soul's size isn't measured in square feet. The mansion was for the community, not for her ego, a palace of hope built on a foundation of humility. This story shows us the strength we carry within. If you want to discover how to find hope and dignity in your own journey, our guide, Finding Light in the Invisible Hours, is for you. The link is in the first pinned comment. What would you have done in Maria's situation? Could you forgive like she did? Comment below. Your story could inspire someone else today. So if this real-life drama touched your heart, do this. Smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, because everyone has an invisible hand waiting to be seen, and your next chapter is just one kind choice away.